This is Sally Wood for Be Inspired, and today I'm going to start this project. It's a basic bench with a border on it. Theoretically not difficult, but the lady has chosen a really big pattern. We'll talk about pattern placement when I come to decide how to put this on. I've also got to put two joins in, so I'll show you how to do pattern matches when you're sewing two pieces of fabric together. So it should turn out to be quite an interesting project. So let's get on with it. Lightly tap the staples and ease them up. It looks like some of these are going to break, which is a bit sad and annoying because you've got to make sure that all of those come out. So I've managed to pull some of the back tacking up. On this project, they have these staples going really close to the legs. So when you're removing those, just be really careful you don't damage the legs. This sometimes happens on chairs. Just be really careful when you remove the staples because sometimes they scratch the wood up, which is a bit sad. I will be keeping the bottom cloth. No reason to get rid of it. It's in good condition. Provided the cat doesn't come along and ruin it for me tonight. Shouldn't do. She's pretty good. And then I'm going to work on the bottom cloth and the piping. It's like an onion. You're always undoing the next layer. I'm sorry the light might not be very good. It's raining outside. It's late afternoon, so work with what we've got. This is the bench that I've just taken everything from, and a fabulous fabric. Trouble is, it is a huge pattern. So I have to decide what part of the pattern I am going to have as the focal point. I was thinking of having the dragon here as the focal point. The other thing would be to have jars and flowers, but I think the dragon would be what I would want showing. With that said, I have to work out how this goes. This is going to be quite interesting, matching the pattern. That's what I'm going to be showing you, is how to match up the pieces. I actually think that that's his tail end, but I don't want to have the join any further over. It has to be here. Because when I look at this dragon, he is right here. Maybe that's what I need, is to have him there. Oh my gosh. As I say, I can't really have a join in the wrong place. I might be able to get away with having a join here because it won't show and the dragon will be more or less centered on the bench then. Let me see if I can put a join here. Usually you center the fabric and you have a join at either end. But as I say, because it's such a grand pattern, I don't want to really lose him. And the only way you can do that is to have him centered and just one join. And if I do it really well, nobody's going to notice. Let's get on with that little conundrum. Here is the full dragon here. The whole thing tells a story. We've got a dragon, he's chasing a lantern. So I want the whole dragon in and the lantern. I wrote down 24 inches, which should encompass his feet, there's his feet, and his head. So half of 24 is 12. So I've got to decide where the center of this pattern is, which is going to be really difficult because we've got this flower here. Maybe that's what I should do, and that takes that to there. It's not really doing it much justice. And I'm going to cut it on the shy side because I've got to find the corresponding piece to go here, and that's why I'm cutting it shorter. Oh, I might be able to do it. Because if I take this lantern here, which is here, I should be able to get it on the end here. Because here's the lantern it's following. Here's the flower, which is there. So it's technically a drop pattern. Let me look and see. If I go there to there, kind of really drops him down. If I drop that down to 3, that is going to be where the welt cord comes. If I say 12 inches is the halfway pattern, that brings it down to his chin. I think that's going to have to work. That'll give me the fabric to hide. So I'm going to pin it and make sure that that's what I can get out. I think I'll test it first and see whether I can really get that out. What I ended up doing was I put a pin here, which is where it touches the foam to the base, and a pin here, which is the corresponding foam to base here too. I've looked at it both ways with the join at the dragon so that the lantern can be here, but I really want the join on this side, not on this side. What I'm going to do, I'm going to fold this over like this, so that the selvages are together. It's an expensive fabric, so I should imagine that they actually have it quite evenly printed on here. So let's move that, because I need to come down slightly so that I have enough space for stapling it in and then having the piping running along here. And continue folding it all the way along. Here's my lantern, which should work out, and with a bit of luck this will be even on this end. So that's there. Okay, so that actually goes all the way here. There's the top for here, so it's well within. It's going to be a little bit tight for everything, but it'll be fine. And it looks like it's been cut down at an angle, so I think I'm perfectly okay with that as my point of reference. Then I'm just going to cut along the fold, move it as I do it, because I really want to keep moving that down slightly. If I have to, I can take the matching piece higher up, but I prefer to take the join from here, and then I've got more fabric at the other end, and we go all the way across like that. That to one side. I think the easiest way to do it is to measure from the bottom here to the pin, which actually takes it to 22 inches. So I'm going to cut 22 inches all the way across. So I'm going to rest that there, my 22. It's not a problem that I'm cutting it on top of the other fabric. I shouldn't be able to cut that very easily, and I can roll it as I go along. Now I know the lady wanted to have some cushions made. I'm hoping that I've got enough left over. So on the piece that I want to keep, which is the dragon here, I've cut back the selvage to about 1/2 inch from the print, which is plenty. I'm actually going to fold that back a little bit more so that I can determine where the join is, and the join seems to be around here. If I come down to the bottom, it's almost in line. When I come to the top, I've got about 1 inch over the top, so I'm really pleased with the way that's joined up. I am going to pop that down there, bring this line here, which goes really quite well underneath the pattern, and bring that in line. So hopefully that is a straight line. I'll cut that up. But I'm actually going to cut it from the other side so I can follow the way the fabric, and then I'll get a nice straight line instead of a wonky one. And cut all the way up to the top. So this is my top piece, and underneath is the bit that I'm going to add to it. Now what I need to do is line these pieces up. So I'm going to pattern match across, lay that piece out underneath there like that, and lay this one on top like this. I've got to make both pieces as identical as I possibly can. The reason is, when I come to staple this into position, I can't pull it in too tight, so I have to use measurements for pulling it in. So cut this piece off here, that will make the bottom level, and then I'll cut the top off. And I can straighten that out and do the same at the top here, and then I'll move everything along. Whenever you move the fabrics, just make sure you reline everything before you carry on cutting. Sometimes you have half a length, sometimes you might have 2 whole lengths or 3 widths. It's just one of those things. It's easier if you keep everything straight. Looks like that comes there, and I'll make sure it's level here. If you've got little pieces, just kind of pat it into place. There we go. I think that's it. And carry on going. Now I'm going to do it from the top down. It's only a small piece of fabric that I'm joining. The width is only small. Pull that over like that. And I'm going to determine where the join should be. I want it to at least be 1/2 inch over. So I'm going to take it to here and iron it into place. So I'm going to measure that up 1 inch and start ironing it. So the next part, move that down, fold that in and ease that in. It has to be a really sharp line, really sharp. Move the tape down a bit further. I would say about hand width, not too far. Then you pull tight and then just ease that in as you go. Measure again, pinch it into place and ease it in again. And that's all you do. If you're doing curtains, you have to go the whole length. But with curtains, start at the bottom and work up, not the other way around. Because curtains you make from the bottom up. Upholstery items you make from the top down, as a general rule. There we go. Nicely steamed into place. Here's the fabric that I'm going to be sewing onto, and here is the fabric that I'm sewing on. And what I'm going to do is line up, hopefully you can see this, but if I fold this over, it comes exactly on that pattern there. and then if I pull that in slightly, it comes over here. Now, because this has been taken from the middle of the pattern, it might be slightly different than if I'd taken it from somewhere else. So it might walk a little bit, but hopefully not too much. I'm going to pop that over like this and pop it down. Now, the center of my foot here is running along that crisp crease that I've just ironed in. Sometimes this takes a couple of goes. I've started it off. Hold the fabric taut and at a slight angle where I want it to go into. Pinch it together and fold it over. Oops, a daisy. And I'm going to sew to my fingers along that crease. When I get close to my fingers, I'm going to move that again. Shake out the bottom and move so it's on line again. Now this flower is a couple of threads under, so I'm going to pop that over like that, pinch it in place, smooth it out and sew. Nearly at my fingers. Fold the fabric on top, let it go almost to right angles like that, fold it over, hold it taut and carry on sewing. And again right to the end with that over. And I hope going to sew straight over. Best way to chow is by opening it like this, smoothing out the seam and checking. And that actually looks pretty close. I need to come in there maybe, but I've come on down. I think that's a pretty good join. I can get really funny about these and mess with them. I've taken them out 3 or 4 times before, but I think that will do. My iron is still quite warm and I'm just going to press little circular motion on the join, not over the join. I'm not going either side, just on the join. And now I'm going to look to see how it lines up. I think I'm going to iron it from this side as well, make sure it's a real crisp. There we go. I'm going to put the iron back on, but I'm cooling it down. Don't want it too hot. Although this is linen, I'm going to press it on wool so I can get some of these creases out. A little bit of steam goes a long way sometimes, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull all of those creases out. It's not a tight fit on the item. I have the dragon here that I like, the lantern that he's chasing and the back end of him here. I don't think I want the start of the next dragon really showing up, so I'm going to push that over there slightly, and I think that will put the dragon more in the centre, and then I'll look at it. I think that looks about right actually. We've got the back end of the dragon here, which is like that much in from the end. It's a little bit wider here. I think that's going to be a good look on that bench. I think they're going to be really pleased with that. Now I've just got to start adjusting it so it's in the right place. That is about there, which kind of brings his feet over the edge, but I think that looks okay. I like that. I've decided that this has to go along the top of the piece of wood. If I put my fingers here, there is the foam and there's the wood. So I'm going to pop that there. I'm going to pull this sideways because I can't have it too tight, but I can't have it too loose. If I have it too loose, it's not going to work. This pattern is so big that the pattern repeat on the side is from here, which is at one end of the bench, to this end where the pattern of the rows or whatever they are is here. This is a long length to keep even, which means on here I'm going to just measure 3/4 of an inch from the base to the top and 3/4 of an inch from the base to the top and pull it out this way, and again on the other side. Everything should fall in. Not an ideal way of doing it. Usually you spot where things are and then just add them in, but I can't with this. My 3/4 here, top of the wood here, and across and pull, and then I will secure this and then fill it in. I am going to cut some piping. In order to do that, I'm going to cut them 2 inches, and I know that I've got to down here, so let me think. If I cut 3 at 2 inches, that should do for the top rail. So there's 1, 2. I'm quite lucky with this fabric because I can actually see the way it was woven, so I'm just going to cut down the weft threads until I have these all cut out and ready to go. Shouldn't take too long to do. To make up the piping, put the pieces at right angles, put it on a 2.6 and sew from corner to corner. Just add on as many lengths as you need to.
Now the piping foot has a groove in it, which makes it a lot easier for lining up the piping and keeping it in place. Now the piping I'm going to pop in the centre there and roll the fabric around. You can leave a little gap up there or go to the end, that's entirely up to you. Pop that underneath like this. Lengthen the stitch to a 5 and start sewing. Just sew it down. Keep adjusting your piping into that fold. As you come to a join, snip it off from any extra pieces that you might have, and I've cut the seam back to about 1/4 inch. Flatten it out, pop your piping in the fold again, and just carry on sewing. Now something I do try to do when I've got piping with patterns, I try to line the colours up. It usually looks a bit more subtle where the joins are. It doesn't always work out right, but sometimes it can. That's what the lady told me when I was learning this job. Measure off the piping from the side across and keep it so that the stitching is on top of the wood. I've already stapled one here to hold it. I will have to bring that down, so I don't want to be putting a staple much further than a hand length. And then I'm going to just bring that along the top of the wood so it's nice and flat. Staple maybe 4 inches or so. Basically the cording actually goes over the wood like that. You'll get it nice and even. I've put a few in, and each time I pull the piping so it's a little bit taut, and that keeps it nice and even, and I'll work my way around the front. Now if you have a join in a piece of work, always make sure that the joins go in at the same place. So on the other side I measured it and it was 14.5 inches. I'm just going to bring that back to 14.5 inches. There we go, like that. And this should be, if I go by the original side, it is just over 3/4 of an inch to the top of the wood. The wood's there. So I'm going to secure this on this side 3/4 of an inch. I'll work out what the pattern is down there and pop it in here to match, and then I can do that end, seeing as that's where the piping's going, and then finish off on this end. Sounds logical to me. Secure this first. Now if I was to pull this in like that, it's quite pointy and I don't want it to look like that, so I've got a little bit of filler. And I don't need very much, I just need to pop it in the corner like that. Smooth it over the top, but bring it into the corner. And then you bring the fabric down from the side and secure it. And then you're going to bring the fabric from the front across, work it in before you decide where you're going to put the staple on this side. So I'm going to pop the staple here and then bring that down. Actually, I need to take that one out and then bring it in. Having removed that one, I can now bring that down and in. It's still a little bit pokey, but it's got a little bit of padding there. This comes to the corner, staple that into place. Bring the piping along the top, pull it, and there. One this side, and work it into the centre, like that. Should be nice and even. Cut this back, so I don't have all that fabric. Don't need that. I want it to cross over, so I'm going to take this piece out here, pop that along there, and secure. I'm going to bring that down like that. Now this one's going to come across like this, so I'm going to secure that there, open this up, and that should come just behind here, almost touching. So that's the end of that one, and that's the end of that one. Bring that across like that, and then I'm going to bring that down like that. I'm going to put the border on, which is this black suede. The problem is that the fabric is tramline. There's the selvage and it goes across the fabric rather than up and down. When I put all of this in, I've got to make sure everything is facing the same way. Pop that over. I'm going to put it in with back tacking. I'm going to work my way back from here. I'm actually going to put the back tacking a little way back from the corner. I usually put it to the corner. So it's about 1/4 of an inch, nearly 1/2 centimetre. Pop that as hard up against the piping as I can without moving the piping up or down. Then staple it into place. And I'm going to do it big lengths, because this is just holding it in place for me. Make sure it's as straight and as even as you possibly can do it. like that. And this is the padding that came off. So I'm going to pop that on the corner and I'm going to start stapling that in as well, just a little ways back. Make my way all the way along here. This is the front side of the bench. This padding doesn't go all the way down like that. So I have here some thinner batting. It's used in quilting and I often use it for things. I'm going to butt it up so it's in line here, not over the top, which means that when this comes down and this comes down on top, it will give a smoother finish across the bottom here where the next set of piping goes on. So I think that's going to look pretty neat. Then when you've got it in place, cut along just over the bottom edge. I've actually taken the staple out here and cut that back a good inch. The reason is I want the fold of this to be on the outside edge here. Put that in so that when that comes down, it comes in line. I think it needs to come out just a little bit further, so I'll pull that out. It's one of those things that has to be exact because I'm going to sew it. At least I think I'm going to sew it. There we go, I think that's it. Now I can cut this back a little bit like that. And this is the piece that's going on the end. Pile is going round like that, so this piece has to go round like that too. Pop that on. I'm going to lay this over the top here. And then just bring it down here. Pop this on here. And then bring this round tight in against the piping. All the way down. Having put this in place, like I did everywhere else, I'm going to pop this in and staple that in place as well. All the way down. On this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I've stopped this at about an inch away, bringing this right into the corner and securing it. Bringing the side piece all the way around and into place and secure. And then I'm going to bring this across. It's meant to meet, but it doesn't. I'll just find a little piece to go in here. I've used the same stuff as I've put down here. I've folded over twice and I think that's going to be wide enough. The fabric that I've put on is a little bit thicker and that's why it didn't match up. By the time this is pulled down and over, nobody will know that I put a different thickness in there. Now I've just pulled under here and all you do on the side is you pull it down and under, not pull it out. That comes later. I'm pulling this side in quite tightly and a little way back from the end here because I don't want it to be noticeable. Once that's in, I can start pulling this down to the front. I'm going to leave this a little bit open, but I'm going to just pull this down and into place. And it's literally down. It's not pulling it this way, it's just down. Okay, so here all I did was push that underneath, fold that over the top, cut this back to go underneath here and fold it into shape. Here on this end I'm just going to pop that under like I did going around the top there and staple it. Work the bottom cloth into place and secure, and then I'm going to work this in. This back tacking I'm going to cut at an angle like that and then straight up. The legs on this have been cut back so things can fit underneath, which is actually really nice and handy, and I will stick this in. Originally I just folded these down, but I've actually hand sewed them shut because they looked a little bit bulky, but I think that works. I'm sorry, the light's really crap today. The pile goes the same way around the bench. I think the lady's going to be really pleased with this. Thank you for joining me on this project. I hope that I managed to impart some useful information. The general rule is if you're going to add fabric, you do it equal either side. But because of the way the fabric went, I joined it here. But I think it looks better because it's got a whole story going on. We ended up with putting this velvet or faux suede in because I didn't want the joins halfway around. That's why I sewed in the corners. But I think it made the piece look a bit neater. If you want to hear more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely excellent, and then I know how I'm doing. And in the meantime, see you later, take care, ciao.